Power doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always arrive with volume or force. Sometimes it moves quietly, through the spaces between words, through pauses that lasts a second too long. This is about the kind of power that doesn't need to speak, the kind that reshapes a room just by entering it. And it's about a man who learned to recognize it, not by what it said, but by what it didn't need to say. He was 32, a junior partner at a consulting firm. It was the kind of place where everyone talked constantly. Meetings about meetings, presentations about presentations. Volume was mistaken for value. Whoever spoke loudest and longest won the room. He had learned to play the game and perfected the performance. Strategic pauses, confident assertions, data delivered with a certainty that didn't always exist. He was good at it, and he got promoted because of it. But deep down, he knew it was hollow. He knew that talking wasn't the same as saying something, that noise wasn't the same as substance. The firm was pitching a major telecommunications client, a multi-million-dollar contract. Everyone wanted on the team for the visibility, the prestige. His managing partner selected him, saying he had the right energy, the right presence. What he meant was the right performance, the ability to fill a room with sound and call it strategy. So, he prepared, rehearsed, built slide decks, and got ready to perform. The pitch was on a Thursday morning. Top floor, glass walls, overlooking the city. The client arrived with 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The men were what he expected. Suits, folders, questions already forming. But the woman was different. Late 40s, maybe, in a charcoal suit with no jewelry except a watch. She didn't carry anything. She just sat down, placed her hands on the table, and waited. The pitch began. His managing partner opened with all his energy and confidence, talking about partnerships, synergies, and growth trajectories. The 2 men nodded and took notes, but the woman just sat there, silent, watching. Her expression gave nothing away. Not approval, not skepticism, just pure, unwavering, unnerving attention. When it was his turn, he stood up, started the slides, and began to speak. He hit all his marks, made all his points, used the pauses he'd practiced. But it felt Italiano. His words landed in the room and just disappeared. Not because they were wrong, but because they were empty. And he could feel that she knew. Her silence had more weight than anything anyone in the room was saying. Halfway through his presentation, he noticed something, a faint scent. It wasn't floral or sweet. It was austere, restrained. Vetiver, maybe, green and earthy, but with a subtle warmth underneath, like sunlight through fog. It had presence without loudness, substance without performance, and it was coming from her, from the woman who hadn't spoken, who didn't need to speak, because her silence carried everything. He stumbled, losing his place for a second, then recovered, but something had shifted. The scent had made him aware of the gap between what he was saying and what mattered. He finished a section and sat down. The pitch continued with the same empty confidence from his colleagues, and through it all, the woman sat silent, her scent lingering, a reminder of something he couldn't name but felt deeply. The meeting ended. The clients left. His team congratulated each other, calling it a strong pitch. But he couldn't shake the woman's silence, the way it had exposed their entire presentation as mere performance. And that scent, quiet and understated, had been more powerful than anything in the room. That night, he couldn't sleep, replaying the meeting in his head. Her silence had asked questions none of them could answer. Who are you when you stop performing? What do you have when you stop talking? The next day, the client's decision came back. They'd chosen another firm. His managing partner was furious, demanding to know what went wrong. Everyone had a theory, but he knew it was a lack of authenticity. The woman had sat there, silent, and seen right through them. He started paying attention. He noticed a pattern. The loudest people in meetings rarely said anything that mattered. Their volume was compensation for uncertainty. But the quiet ones, who listened and spoke only when they had something to say, they carried weight, authority. So he began to experiment. In meetings, he stopped talking unless he had something real to contribute. He stopped performing confidence he didn't feel. At first, it was uncomfortable. People asked if he was okay, but he kept going, letting silence carry what words couldn't. Soon, something shifted. People started listening when he spoke, because he spoke less, and his words carried weight instead of volume. He wasn't performing anymore. He was present. And presence, he learned, is more powerful than performance will ever be. He thought about the woman often, her silence, her scent. He wanted to find his own version of that power. He started studying restraint in everything, how he dressed, moved, presented himself. He stripped away the excess, the noise, keeping only what was essential. He even changed his fragrance, searching for something that whispered instead of. He found it in a small, niche house. It had Vitova and cedar, but underneath, a trace of warm amber. It didn't announce itself. It just existed, quietly, confident. When I wore it, he moved differently, more deliberately, and people responded. They took him more seriously, listened more carefully. Months passé, the firm had another major pitch. His managing partner asked him to lead, saying he now had gravitas, an authority that doesn't come from talking. He prepared differently this time, with more thinking and less rehearsal. At the pitch, he spoke quietly, clearly, and only when necessary, leaving space for dialogue. And it worked. They won the contract. His partner asked what had changed. How do you explain that a silent woman wearing an austere fragrance taught you that power doesn't need volume? So he just said he'd learned to listen more and speak less. He never saw the woman again, but it didn't matter. The lesson wasn't about her. It was about him recognizing that he'd been performing power instead of embodying it. Years later, he runs his own firm. They don't pitch loud. They solve problems, quietly and effectively. Clients come to them not because they talk the most, but because they listen the best. He teaches his team not to perform confidence, but to embody it. Not to fill silence, but to let it carry what words can't. The most powerful lessons don't come with fanfare. They come in silence, in the space between words. Silence itself doesn't have power, but it creates space for truth, for substance, for presence. And in that space, real power lives. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that just is. He wears his fragrance, not like armor that protects, but like a signature that reveals. It's quiet and understated. Most people don't notice it, but the ones who do, ones who pay attention to whispers over shouts, they understand. The silence still carries him, still reminds him that the most powerful things in life don't announce themselves. They whisper, they wait, and if you're listening, you hear them, you feel them, and the world responds, not with applause, but with respect. The kind you earn by knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when to let silence carry the power.